Hi, my name is Jane. I have a neighbor called Christoph. We used to be just friends, but recently we started dating. Spending time with him was so fun. He gave me lots of different gifts and always knew how to make me happy. One day, we came to a cafe. We were standing in a queue when Christoph got a call. He was distracted by the conversation, so I had to make the order. The guy taking it was quite handsome, so I smiled sweetly at him. Beautiful girls like you get an extra portion of French fries. And just as I was about to take it, Christoph came back. No need for any of that. He took our order, grabbed my hand, and dragged me away. After we left the cafe, he looked at me, annoyed. Do you flirt with everyone like that? That was nonsense. I didn't understand why he was mad. Was he really freaking out over some French fries? The next day, my friend Becky invited me for a walk in the park. I got a call from Christoph while getting ready. We chatted for a while and I told him about my plans. But I shouldn't have done that. As soon as I left the house, Christoph started calling me non-stop. He asked where I was going, who was next to me, which park Becky and I were meeting at. I got so tired of it, I turned off my phone. At some point, I thought I saw a silhouette among the trees. Was that Christoph? But no, I had to have been mistaken. What would he be doing here? Becky and I were strolling through the park when suddenly we noticed a show nearby. Some animators were performing. One of them came up to us. He was wearing a stupid-looking costume and acting really weird. He kept hanging around and staring at us. I couldn't stand it. Do you need something? The animator mumbled something, but that was enough for me to recognize his voice. It couldn't be. But I went closer and I pulled off his mask. Christoph was hiding behind it. What the hell was he doing? Are you stalking me? Christoph said he'd just been a little worried about me and didn't want to leave me alone. But that was crazy. We argued a little bit, but we quickly made up. Christoph promised he wouldn't do it again. Becky and I hadn't gotten to spend much time together, so we decided to meet again the next day. As I was getting ready, I got another call from Christoph. He asked me if I was busy and invited me for a walk. I got a sense of deja vu. I told him that I'd already made plans with Becky and suggested that we meet again some other time. Ugh, you're spending more time with her than me. Is she more important to you? I told him that he couldn't ask me to choose, but he hung up, and that ruined my mood. As Becky and I were walking, I told her all about my talk with Christoph. She said I should break up with him. You haven't been dating for long. If he's acting this way now, what's he gonna be like in the future? I'd thought about that too, but I still hesitated. Maybe things would get better. The next day, Christoph called me again. I didn't want to pick up the phone, but I did it anyway. I thought he would go off on me again, but Christoph surprised me. He admitted that he had been in the wrong and suggested that the two of us go for a walk together with Becky. And I was delighted and immediately called her. We went to an amusement park. The queue for tickets was huge, and it was terribly hot. Christoph and Becky left to get some ice cream, and when they came back, Christoph was frowning for some reason. While we were on the next ride, he looked really tense. And after we'd left the amusement park, I couldn't stand it any longer. I took him aside and just asked him what was wrong. I don't know how to say it, but Becky was hitting on me. She said she liked me and asked me to dump you. What? I didn't know how to react and froze up. That was insane. Becky was my best friend. She would never do that to me. But on the other hand, why would Christoph lie? I remembered Becky telling me to break up with him the day before. So, when I confronted her and demanded an explanation, she twirled a finger at her temple, said she hadn't done anything of the sort and Christoph had made it up. I didn't know who to believe, and I went home upset. My parents noticed it and asked me what was wrong. I didn't want to tell them, so I just said that I had had a fight with my boyfriend. Really? Christoph is such a nice young man, though. By the way, I forgot to tell you, my parents loved him. We grew up together, so they'd known him from when he was a kid. I didn't want to listen to my mom praise him, so I quickly fled to my room. The next day, Christoph asked me over. When I got there, he'd already set the table. He'd ordered food and put a large bouquet of flowers in a vase. Wow, it was beautiful. Christoph was a perfect gentleman that evening. But then, something happened. I went to use the bathroom, and when I came back, I saw that he had taken my phone, opened my social media, and was reading all my chats. I got so mad. Don't you trust me at all? And that got us fighting again. I went out onto the balcony to calm down. but I regretted doing that because I saw something there that blew my mind. He had a telescope on the balcony, and it was aimed at my house. I was speechless. It turned out that Kristoff had been constantly watching me. We had a big fight because of that. You are driving me crazy! You're so paranoid! And I lost my temper and left. Then I called Becky and I asked her to meet me so we could talk. But she was busy, so we ended up meeting the next day. We went to the cafe that Kristoff and I had gone to recently, discussed what all had happened, and I decided I would believe Becky. Kristoff must have lied to me so Becky and I would argue. He wanted me to only spend time with him, and the recent events made me think. I decided breaking up was probably a good idea, but I was still hesitant. We had known each other for so long. Things had been fine until we started dating, right? At some point, a drone came to hover over our table. At first, we didn't pay any attention to it, but it kept buzzing, circling over and really annoying us. We thought it was just some kid messing around, so we went to the play area. And you would not believe who I saw there. Kristoff was hiding behind the children with a remote control in his hands. He'd been watching me through the camera on the drone. This had gone way too far. That was the last straw. We were done. I went back to the table to pick up my bag. Becky and I had barely left the cafe when Kristoff caught up to us. He started making excuses and blaming everything on Becky. It pissed me off. I said that we were done. And you know what? Kristoff didn't think I was serious. What an idiot. For your information, I've already got another boyfriend. Kristoff didn't believe me, again, and grinned. Well, who is he then? I looked around the cafe and I suddenly noticed the familiar cashier. Yeah, the one who had offered me free french fries. So I nodded at him. There he is. And in the next few moments, I did the craziest thing in my entire life. I quickly walked up to the guy, pulled him closer, and kissed him. Everyone was stunned, even the guy himself. But thankfully, he didn't hesitate to play along. He put his arm around my waist and smirked at Kristoff. And you should have seen how mad he got. Becky and I hung out at the cafe for a while longer before leaving. And to my surprise, the cashier caught up to us outside. He said his name was Luke, and he understood the position I was in, so he'd play along again if I needed him to, which was very nice of him. I suspected that Kristoff would not leave me alone so easily, so I agreed. I thanked Luke for his help today, and we exchanged numbers. Becky and I went shopping, and then hung out some more. I got home late, and immediately heard voices. Were we supposed to have guests tonight? I walked into the living room, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Kristoff was sitting at the table and talking to my parents. It turned out that my mom had invited him over for dinner. What a disaster! Was she joking? Jane, come join us. Of course, I was not about to have dinner with them. I said I didn't want to talk to Kristoff, and we had already broken up. And before Mom could say anything, I slipped into my room. Later, she came to me and started talking about Kristoff again. She reminded me how wonderful he was, how much he loved me, and so forth and so on. Blah, blah, blah. It was so annoying. I tried to explain to her how clingy and paranoid he was. He just cares about you. Arguing was useless, and I told her I just wanted to sleep. In the morning, I called Luke and we decided to meet. He brought a bouquet of flowers when he came to pick me up. We didn't go far, so Kristoff would see us together. He just needed to understand I didn't want to be with him anymore. And when we got home, it turns out that my mom had also noticed us. Of course, she immediately asked me who Luke was. And I started singing his praises. I told her how smart he was and how nice he was, and all the reasons that he was 100 times better than Kristoff. And my mom pursed her lips and didn't say anything. The next day, she suggested we go shopping. We came to the mall and suddenly ran into Kristoff. He was also shopping with his mom. Oh, wow! I didn't expect to see you here. Oh, spare me. My mom was such a bad liar. She had set this up on purpose. I was not about to let this stand, and I sneakily texted Luke. Thankfully, it was his day off, so he arrived quickly. Our moms turned away to talk for 1 sec, and I quickly left with him. It seemed that only Kristoff had noticed it, but that made it even better. I wanted him to see I had another boyfriend. Luke and I tried to think of what to do. I suggested maybe going to the pool. It turned out that he didn't know how to swim, but he still agreed to go with me anyway. And we actually had a great time. I noticed that Luke liked seeing me in a swimsuit, and it was really flattering. After swimming, we got out of the pool. We were talking when I suddenly saw a man in the water. He looked familiar, so I took a closer look and gasped in surprise. It was Kristoff. He was watching and glaring at us. What a creep! Did he really think I couldn't see him? The water was transparent! Luke noticed him too and was stunned. Then he suddenly hugged me and kissed me. Kristoff surfaced, ran up to us, and pushed Luke away from me. I got scared, but Luke easily fought back and demanded Kristoff leave me alone. Jane has a new boyfriend now, so leave her alone, got it? Kristoff looked frightened and nodded quickly. Luke let him go, and we left. On the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I asked him why he'd kissed me there. Was it just to threaten Kristoff? Actually, it wasn't. To be honest, I've liked you for a long time. Butterflies immediately fluttered in my stomach. From that moment on, we started dating for real. One day, I asked him over. My parents were at home. Mom was still angry at me for leaving the mall like I did, so she was determined to not like Luke. But he was acting so sweet and charming that he managed to quickly win her over. Just imagine, he even found something in common with my dad. Things were really looking up for me. I was just glad that Kristoff had left me alone. Luke and I were doing great, until one day I decided to surprise him and came to the cafe without warning. I saw Luke by the entrance. He was arguing with some girl. When I got closer, he quickly dragged me inside. Who was she? Luke shrugged and waved it away. I don't know. She must have mistaken me for someone else. I didn't think much of it and quickly forgot about it all. But then, one day, when Luke was walking me home, Kristoff suddenly came up to us. Jane, you shouldn't trust this guy. He's hiding something from you, and I have proof. Kristoff was at it again. I was sick of it. Kristoff's words made Luke so angry. He told Kristoff to leave us alone and said it was the final warning. I had never seen Luke angry like that before. Even at the pool, he'd been much calmer. Kristoff left, but the next day he suddenly called me. He tried his hardest to convince me that something was wrong with Luke. Again. But I got tired of listening to him and I hung up. But like always, Kristoff did not give up that easily. Soon, he came over and asked me to hear him out. I called Luke and told him Kristoff was bothering me again. Well, now he's asking for it. After a while, a police car drove up to my house. Luke and a cop got out of it. The cop approached Kristoff and frowned sternly. Stalking a girl? You're coming with me. Kristoff visibly paled. I didn't understand what was going on. How had Luke pulled this off? Of course, Kristoff was annoying me, but he hadn't actually done anything bad. I doubted he would be arrested for just bothering me. But the cop wouldn't let up and scared Kristoff to death. He started begging the cop to let him go, and he promised not to stalk me anymore. All right, but you're going straight to the police station if this ever happens again. After Kristoff left, the cop and Luke suddenly burst out laughing. I looked at them, surprised. Luke told me the cop was actually his uncle. He had simply asked him for help. Wow, I remembered Kristoff's frightened face and couldn't help but laugh along. And after the incident, he left me alone for good. We didn't even cross paths on the street, even though we were neighbors. I thought things were finally getting better, until a new problem appeared. Luke started acting weird. Someone kept calling him, but he never picked up. One day, I saw him get a gift at work. He threw it in the trash without even opening it. When I asked him about it, Luke didn't explain a thing. One day, we were walking around the city when I noticed a girl who seemed familiar. Oh, but of course! I had seen her with Luke at the cafe. Back then, he said that she'd mistaken him for someone else, but now she was coming toward us again. When Luke saw her, he took my arm and started pulling me in the opposite direction. He definitely didn't want us to meet. I, obviously, no longer believed that they didn't know each other, and I got kinda suspicious. It seemed Luke was really hiding something. I decided to ask Becky for advice, and I told her everything. She agreed Luke was acting pretty strange. By the way, have you heard anything about Kristoff? He hasn't even left his house since he broke his leg. I was horrified and had a terrible suspicion. Was that Luke's doing? I suddenly remembered about Kristoff saying something about proof. What if he hadn't been lying? I decided I would find out for sure, and I went to his house. Kristoff was lying in bed with a broken leg. I asked him about the evidence he'd mentioned a while back, and he showed me some interesting photos. Luke and that girl were in them. She was hugging him, kissing him on the cheek, holding his hand. I was shocked. So this was what Luke had been hiding from me? I felt awful, and I decided I would break up with him. However, I still wanted to hear him try and explain things. So I went up to him, showed him the pictures, and I demanded an explanation. Luke looked upset and guilty. I'm sorry that I lied to you. I do know her. This is Angela, my ex-girlfriend. She wouldn't leave me alone. We broke up over a month ago, but she keeps following me around. Our situations were just so similar. I felt sorry for you and immediately wanted to help. And just as he said that, Angela came around the corner. She started screaming and accusing me of stealing her boyfriend. What a psycho! Luke and I quickly walked into the house. It was obvious he wasn't lying. I shouldn't have worried and suspected him of something so horrible. I also asked him about Kristoff and the broken leg, just in case. Luke was surprised at first, but then he laughed and said that he hadn't broken anyone's legs. Later, I learned from a mutual friend that Kristoff had just taken a bad fall off his bike. Angela kept bothering Luke for some time after that. She would wait for him by his house and follow us around the city. She even sent me threatening letters. But one day, she disappeared. Luke and I both breathed a heavy sigh of relief, although we were surprised. And then, we accidentally found out why she had left us alone. You wouldn't believe what had happened. We were hanging out on my balcony when we suddenly saw Angela. She was standing with Kristoff by his house, and they were kissing. Luke and I couldn't believe our eyes. Kristoff must have eventually found her after taking all those photos. What a power couple. It's like they were made for each other. Do you know anybody who's like Kristoff and Angela? Tell me and Luke in the comments down below.